Okay, good morning, everyone. We have returned this morning, which is Wednesday, January 19th at 10 o'clock a.m., to continue our workshop on our transportation regulations and our review of our transportation regulations. And Commission staff just has some follow up questions regarding a few regulations. I'm Jocelyn Boyd, I'm the Chief Clerk at the Public Service Commission. The Commission's statutory obligation to review its regulations has been docketed in docket number 2020-247A. And the Commission staff has conducted workshops. Commission staff conducted workshops last year for its Chapter 103, Sections 100 through 800 regulations. And we issued a notice on December 20th regarding additional review of our transportation regulations. Commission staff has reviewed the proposals that were submitted by interested persons last year, and we just have a couple of questions. We noticed on the agenda and notice for today that certain regulations would be addressed, including regulations 103-133, 103-221, 103-190, and 103-170 through 180. And if you don't mind, may I ask who is participating virtually? We'll start with the Office of Regulatory Staff. Alex?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Jocelyn. For ORS, we have myself, Alex Knowles, and Tom Allen, who is ORS's Director of Broadband Communications and Safety, as well as Thomas McGill, who's ORS's Manager of Transportation Safety and Emergency Management. Good morning.
Good morning, Alex. And Tom and Thomas. Good morning, good morning. And what about the Department of Insurance? Is Director McGriff available?
This is Gwen McGriff. I'm General Counsel for the South Carolina Department of Insurance.
Okay, thank you, General Counsel McGriff. So, Alex, can we begin with you? Maybe begin with ORS. I'll just proceed in order of the in the order that's presented on our notice.
Yes, ma'am. That sounds great.
All right, and we just had a few follow-up questions, if that's okay, Alex. So we'll begin with 103-133E, and that section pertains to non-emergency vehicles and the requirements for those carriers. Section E refers to minimum periodic inspection standards. And I'm reviewing the Office of Regulatory Staff's proposal, which was filed with the Commission on June 8th at 11:58, June 8th, 2021. So, Alex, the sections that were struck relating to Appendix G, Subchapter B of the Federal Minimum Periodic Inspection Standards. And then I see, and I think that was because those regulations no longer exist. Is that right?
Ms. Boyd, I'm not sure that they no longer exist. I do believe that, let's see, Appendix G to Subchapter B was redesignated as Appendix A to 49 CFR Part 396. But ORS's recommendations were really to help better tailor the regulations to South Carolina certificate holders. ORS's annual inspection requirements are based on the FMCSA inspection standards, but they are tailored to the types of vehicles that are typically operated by commission regulated certificate holders. So, for instance, the FMCSA inspection standards are designed for large commercial interstate vehicles such as, a stagecoach bus. And so some of the FMCSA's inspection standards aren't applicable to the kinds of vehicles operated by commission regulated non-emergency vehicle certificate holders. So that was sort of the driving reason behind ORS's recommended changes there.
Okay, you said some of the CSA standards are no longer applicable to South Carolina carriers?
Yes, ma'am.
is there a particular, all right, so some of the CSA standards are no longer applicable, but then the requirements that ORS has established, you said, are better suited and more akin to, did you say FMCSA inspection standards?
Yes, ma'am. That's the FMCSA standards are those that are currently referenced in the regulation, and ORS's standards are based on those, but then they are tailored to South Carolina.
Do you know a section right off the top? Can you refer us to a section, like a current section in the regs that refer to the FMCSA standards that you know of?
I don't have one off the top of my head. Let me ask Mr. Allen or Mr. McGill if you do. I would say, Ms. Boyd, to the extent that the commission does wish to continue to specifically incorporate the FMCSA inspection standards, I think that what ORS would recommend is to specifically delineate those requirements into the regulations as opposed to general reference to the FMCSA standards. And by the FMCSA standards, again, I mean, Appendix G to Subchapter B and the Part 396 CSA safety regulations. And the reason for that is based on ORS's experience, just having that specific list in the commission regs would be of significant assistance to certificate holders who want to understand and comply with the regulations. Oh, and I'm also advised by Mr. McGill that Regulation 133.6 does already specifically incorporate the FMCSA regulations found in CFR Title 49.
Okay, I see where you are, the first paragraph. In addition to meeting requirements of 103.1.3.3.4 above and any and all definitions addressed in the Federal Motor Carrier. Okay, that says definitions addressed in the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations. Okay. So I guess we don't want whatever we consider to including Attorney Knowles in the proposed regulation. I think staff would probably want to be a little bit more specific other than annual inspection requirements set by ORS. But it sounds like what you're saying is that ORS's standards could be broader than the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations in Title 49.
Let's
the CFR Title.
Yes, ma'am. Maybe Mr. Allen or Mr. McGill might be able to to answer there.
Thank you.
Jocelyn, this is Tom.
Hey.
If I understood you correctly, good morning.
Good morning.
What we would suggest is that the FMCSA standards are not real relevant to non-emergency carriers in South Carolina. In other words, most of the non-emergency transportation carriers in South Carolina are not bigger commercial vehicles, but they're typically smaller passenger vehicles. And as a result, the FMCSA regulations do not typically, they don't typically address smaller passenger vehicles. They address the larger vehicles, such as Mr. Knowles had mentioned, your stagecoach buses, or even, it could even be your household good moving trucks, your bigger box trucks, etc.
And Ms. Boyd, I will note that Regulation 103.133B Sub 1, Sub A does independently establish the equipment requirements for non-emergency vehicles. And those are verified by ORS during the application process and monitored by ORS through periodic inspections as well.
Would you say that again? You said 103,
Dash
1336. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dash 133 sub B sub 1 sub A. I'm sorry if I misspoke earlier.
Okay, 1031336B 1A. Because you're under non-emergency, right?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Yes, 6B.
Okay, that's correct. So I'm
No problem.
yes, that's correct.
Okay, 6B, little one, I mean number 1, and then little a? Or little b?
Yes.
Let's see. where B is.
Little a.
B, I think you want.
As I'm looking at it right now, it looks like both A and B may be applicable. Agreed.
Excuse me 1 second. Attorney Knowles, next question, please, and thank you for everybody for your indulgence. Are your standards, the inspection requirements that are recommended, the recommended language in section E, I'm back there now, the minimum periodic inspection standards, are those codified or written anywhere?
They are written and maintained by ORS. They've been essentially the same for a number of years, but they are not codified in regulation or statute.
Would you consider filing those with us under that docket? Because see, here, I'll tell you, Attorney Knowles, on a couple of the other sections where ORS suggested changes, the agency recommended including the language state and federal requirements. For example, if you look back in B, where it says a loading entrance in accordance with state and federal requirements, look on the previous page under vehicle requirements, and where the language, let's see, B1A2. The federal site was struck, but then it says state and federal requirements. You understand my point? So.
Yes, ma'am. I think Mr. Allen may be able to speak to that if that briefly, if you'd like.
Hey,
Sure.
Ms. Boyd, thank you. Our recommendation for that came, we felt that there was a little too much specificity with that. If you see what we struck, the AD requirements set forth in Title IX, but we acknowledge that there are other, since the promulgation of these regulations, other federal regulations that should probably be adhered to by non-emergency carriers. So we did not feel that the non-emergency carriers should be hamstrung only to comply with this in regards to ADA requirements, but any and all ADA requirements that exist.
You're back on B1 little a, right? Yeah, I wrote that note from our last workshop that just in case those sections change, that's why you included. I'm not clear. I guess what I'm saying is at least someone can search and find what those requirements are by conducting legal research, but we don't have any specifics on what the annual inspection requirements set by ORS, what those requirements are. That's why I was asking, are these written somewhere where it's staff, if they're public information, can we look at those? Or if not,
You're asking,
I'm back on E1. If not, is there some standard that ORS relies on, federal or state, to create those annual inspection requirements, and then we can just generally reference those instead of that's my point that I'm trying to make.
so, could we have just one moment,
Sure.
Ms. Boyd?
Sure.
Thank you very much, Ms. Boyd. My understanding is that you'd like for ORS to file its annual inspection requirements just with the commission in this docket.
Well, that's one option, Attorney Knowles, or you can just say annual inspection requirements set forth by ORS, which are consistent with federal law or state law, something. So that if someone wants to review those standards, we know what your basis is. I'm not trying to say what ORS has the authority to do. That's not where I'm going with this. What I'm saying is, are the inspection requirements based on state law or federal law? And so let's at least make some reference to the legal authority here. Legal authority upon which ORS is upon which ORS is relying as to the substance of the standards. That's all I was looking for. Even if you aren't using the FMCSA rules in whole, are you using them in part? If so, we can say set forth by ORS, which are consistent with federal law, something, or state law. But you have time to think about that. I think you understand my point, though. I think. Okay.
Okay.
If you don't, tell me.
We'll take that. I think that I do is that yes, you're looking to understand basically the legal basis for ORS's inspection requirements in order to make those clear to the public.
Yes, sir. And then we'll reference if it's state law, state and federal law, or just federal law. We'll reference that here.
Okay. That sounds good. Okay, we'll take that back internally. Thank you, Ms. Boyd.
Thank you. General Counsel McGriff?
Yes.
May I ask about the section below, the section we were just reviewing, the 103, 133, 6F, and I know that the 170 series there are a couple other questions I have, but did you get a chance to look at the minimum insurance limits in that section?
We just kind of perused it.
Yes, ma'am.
But those are requirements that are, I think they're federal requirements, not state requirements.
Okay.
So we don't have any really real authority over those limits. That's one of the questions that we had, for this discussion today.
Okay. Well, that was my question. If you had any thoughts about the limits that are there. So
we'll look further. We don't set those limits. That's usually the Public Service Commission, and our role in this process, if there's any role at all, is just looking to see about availability in the South Carolina marketplace. I did check with some of our business units here about issues, if they'd heard of any issues, but I can get back with you or submit something more formal to you, but those are federal requirements as I understand them.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, we'll move on to 103-221. Oh. Okay, Attorney Knowles? Sorry to keep bothering you, but we just needed further internal clarification, please, sir. So, would you please review with us, ORS recommends that we strike 103-2212?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Would you-
And so, from our perspective, that's essentially just a cleanup recommendation to streamline the regulations. So, as you know, during the application process, prospective carriers have to demonstrate that they've purchased or leased on a long-term basis the equipment necessary to provide the service that they're applying for.
Right.
And they also have to demonstrate that they're able to get insurance. So based on ORS's experience, carriers aren't able in practice to get insurance if they want to rent their vehicles. And so in practice, this regulation isn't used. So our recommendation then is to remove this regulation, since in practice it's not used, simply to streamline the regulations.
And Attorney Knowles, you said something else, and then your voice sounded really thin. So you mentioned that carriers really aren't using this, but you mentioned why. Can you tell me why? And you said something about insurance, but I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, they're not able to get insurance in practice if they're simply renting their vehicles.
Thank you. Okay. 103-190-2C. I think this is the last.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Would you please explain to us again the reason for deleting 2C, and within that, there's also a 3 there, also that declaration of value.
Yes, ma'am. Gladly. So ORS's recommended deletions in 190.2.c should also be read in connection with ORS's recommendation to add a new subsection 2 to Regulation 173. And Regulation 173, specifically deals with insurance requirements for motor carriers. So when you take together these two recommendations related to 192.c on the one hand, and to add a new subsection 2 to 173 on the other, ORS's recommendation is essentially to move the specific requirements related to declaration of value and excess value from 190 dealing with tariffs to 173 dealing with insurance requirements. And so we're really just recommending a reclassification because to us that seemed to make good organizational sense.
Okay. Would you be opposed to us? It's something you can think about too. Referencing 173 under this, because this deals with tariffs. So making some type of reference to 103, 173 in that section. Okay.
I don't believe we would. We'll take it back, and if we do have any concerns with that, we'll follow up.
Okay. So, Attorney Knowles, I'm going to move to General Counsel McGriff here for a second, if you don't mind. General Counsel McGriff, I do have a letter from Mr. Terraney, which in our workshop last year, I'm going to ask our live stream producer to show this to you. This is where we got the, where we received the suggestion to ask the Department of Insurance to be involved in this workshop. So give me 1 second. General Counsel McGriff, can you see that? The document that we're displaying?
No, I'm
You can't?
trying to see if I can make it bigger. It's not clear. I mean, I can.
I'll read it. I'll read it to you. It's a letter from the Terraney Law Firm. It's dated June 8, 2021. And one of the suggestions that Attorney Terraney made, he not just made it, he also filed it with the commission in this docket. It reads, increase insurance requirements for passenger carriers. SC Code Reg 103172 should be amended to increase the schedule of minimum limits for insurance policies and surety bonds. The minimum amount of $25,000 of liability coverage per person and $50,000 per occurrence is inadequate for a vehicle that may carry as many as 15 passengers. The rising cost of health care has made $25,000 an inappropriate amount of coverage for someone that is injured in a motor vehicle accident. Furthermore, the commission should require underinsured motor coverage for passenger carriers. And if you give me a second, I can give you a little bit more information on the filing should you choose to review it on our docket management system. Give me a second. So on General Counsel McGriff, Attorney Terraney filed the document on June 18th, 2021 at 10:24 a.m. And it's just in reference to docket number 2020-247-A and the Public Service Commission's review of its regulations. This is the one that I just showed you is on page 6, and there are a total of 7 pages. But during the workshop that we conducted last June, a suggestion was made that we reach out to the Department of Insurance for any guidance the department could provide related to the insurance coverage requirements in our regulations. So that's why we extended the invitation. And thank you for appearing today.
Thank you. That was the first I've seen that particular document. To my knowledge and to the staff's knowledge here, we do not have that here. I can look into that further and try to offer some comments to you.
Okay. If you don't mind, may I go over, there are some of the sections that mention insurance as it relates to transportation, motor vehicle carriers, and our regulations. Do you have a copy of our regulations or with you, or you?
I have them up on, I try to pull them up on screen in Westlaw.
Oh, okay. Well.
But I don't have any of the materials for this workshop.
Okay. All right. We can send you a link to everything. That's not a problem. And if we need to have a follow-up discussion, a short one. If you don't mind, if you would accommodate us, we will schedule another workshop. Is that okay?
That probably, yeah, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. So, but there's a section in our regulation, it's under sub-article 6, that covers insurance policies and surety bonds. And so that's the section 103-170 through 103-180. And the passenger limits, insurance requirements rather, are listed there, freight requirements, cargo insurance requirements. Attorney Knowles just referred to that section, 103-173. And I think those are the two major sections with the minimum insurance liability coverage that are included. So what, is it your preference that you, that we send you, we'll send you a link to the docket and also a link to our regs, which are also on our website? And
That would be helpful.
okay.
And the question that the commission has for the department is, should these limits be changed?
Yeah, do you have any recommendations, maybe based on your current laws? Are they lower or higher?
They sound similar to the ones for personal lines.
Okay.
That's currently in chapter 77. You know, we can look at it and I can have our folks upstairs look at it and maybe compare it to what other state requirements are. But it sounds similar to what's required right now for personal lines insurance coverage.
Okay. Okay. Would you prefer that we schedule another workshop within a month? How long do you think that you will need? And
Yeah, if you could do it a month, we can get you something.
all right, we'll look at rescheduling another one the week of February 21st, if that's okay.
That's fine.
All right. I think we've covered the list, everyone, with what we had included on the notice for today, with the exception of the insurance recommendations, insurance liability recommendations. So Attorney Knowles and General Counsel McGriff will send another notice for the week of the 21st of February.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions? All right.
No more arrest.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
All right. Thank you.